begins by evaluating the match. Then it uses the lambda operator to figure out which one is supposed to run. And you can use the discard instead of using a default. All right. So I wouldn't recommend even using that, but it is available to you. All right. They even went further with it. And now there's something called pattern matching. All right. This one is pretty neat. Why do I say that? Well, if you remember, we talked about this just a few minutes ago, this big if statement. Back in the old days, like 5 or 10 years ago, you could not write this as a switch. If you did, you would have to include, like, for example, here, instead of this if, you would have to say switch, and then underneath that, you would have 199. You'd have to list out 100, 99, 98, 97, 96, 95, 94, 93, 92, 91, 90, 89, and 88. You couldn't put ranges in with a switch statement. You now can when you use these relational or logical patterns. This is something fairly new. All right. Again, I would recommend you don't use these until we get to that point in the book. I said right near the end. And this explains all that stuff in more detail than I just did. All right. There's also a conditional operator that's known as the ternary operator. What I will do, just so you know, is all this stuff, because I think this is important. So this, where I did the multiple if and if else, etc. And then I did the, so let me put that in there, just like a comment here. All right. I will give you this that I'm working on off of right now. So if you want that, you'll be able to have it. If you don't want it, well, then just don't use it. All right. And now then we're down to here. All right. So what's next in here then is this conditional operator. This can be a time saver. Some people like it, some people could care less. So let's look at it. So let's imagine I've got two numbers, int x equal 345, int y equals 712, and int max. And I want the bigger number. So I'm going to say if x is greater than or equal to y, max equal x. Else max equal y. Now, I may or may not have mentioned it. This curly brace right here, you could put it on the end right there. This ending one, you could put right there. I spaced my stuff out. You don't have to. But when you look here, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 lines of code. I'm going to replace all 8 of those lines of code with one line. And it'll look like this. Max equal x greater than or equal to y, question mark x colon y. So I've replaced all of this with this. All right, what I'm showing you right now is what's called the ternary operator. Some books will actually call it the question mark colon operator. This says, make this test. Is x greater than or equal to y? Then what comes after the question mark is true. If x is greater than or equal to y, take x and assign it to max. If x is not greater than or equal to y, take y and assign it to max. Some people like this, some people don't. I was actually at a conference years ago where people argued over whether or not this should even be used. All right. I mean, everybody has their own opinion on virtually everything. And it is called the ternary operator because it is the only operator where you have 1, 2, 3 things that you're operating on. Okay. And again, you want more, you can take a look at what's explained in the book here. I think, hopefully at least, I gave you a good enough description because their example isn't that different from the one that I used. All right. Oh, we come to yet another enhanced version of the Invoice Total app. All right. I think what we'll do is this. All right. I'm going to do this enhanced version of the Invoice Total app. Okay. Then when we get done, so we're going to look at that in a minute. All right. Then we're going to just, we'll go in and we'll talk about loops. That's pretty important stuff. All right. That's going to take us between those two things probably till somewhere around 1 o'clock. I would guess it's going to be around there. We'll take one more break. All right. And then after the break, we'll look at this future value app, which is just a couple pages. After we get through with that, I would guess it'll be around 1:30 or so. That'll be it for the day. All right. It's hard to keep people in that long. So tomorrow, what I'll do is I will go back and add the stuff from this chapter to the payroll app, just so you have some kind of an idea of what's going on. Okay, so 149, and then we'll go right into chapter 6 after that. All right, so we looked at conditional. So let's look at this enhanced version. It says to give you a better idea, there's now an enhanced version of this. Okay, so what does it say? Now we've got a customer type. All right, and if the type is R, then they're going to get either no discount or 10% or 25%. If it's a C, they're going to get either 25 or 20 or 30%. Otherwise, they're going to get 40%. All right. So I'm going to right now go and make changes to the enhanced total, invoice total, to make it do this. But I think to make this simpler, I'm not going to grab the one we just did where we added the total number and the average, etc. We'll grab the original one and make changes on that. So I'm going to come out here. This was our invoice total. I am going to come in and close just about everything up that I've got here for now. That's the one I want, so I'll keep that one up. And I'm going to add a new project. It will again be a Windows Forms. It will again be a C# with .NET Framework. This will be invoice total GUI 04. All right, we'll bring that up, create. I'm going to go back to this one, copy everything, paste it in. Again, I like to change the color right away. All right, so we've got this. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to stretch this out, move this down. Well, I'll try to after I unlock it. Then copy this one and paste it back up here. Oh, what the heck happened here? Let's see. All right, I don't know what happened there. There we go. All right. So this is going to change. This is going to be the customer type. And this will say customer type. And then this will be TXT customer type. All right, let's double check and make sure everything else is done. Subtotal, discount percent, discount amount. We should say AMT, so the two are the same. Total, calculate, clear, and exit. That's all working. We will set our accept button to calculate. We will set our clear button, cancel button, I should say, to clear. We will set our Windows start position to center screen. And finally, we will view our tab order as 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Another view tab order. And this is kind of goofed up, so we move that over. That doesn't look too bad there. All right. Let's change the name of the form. I call it FRM invoice total CH5 for chapter 5, CH05. Yes, I want to save everything. Do a file, save all. Let's make this the active project. And there it is. Okay, good. All right. So the code that I have to add is in here. It's in the calculate, so I'm just going to copy it. Notice they're still doing that convert dot to decimal. I wish they weren't, but they are. Now they're using an if in here, which is totally fine. But to do it a little differently, I'll do a switch, and I'll do the old-fashioned switch. So I'll do a switch here on customer type. Move that over so you can see what I'm doing. All right, so that's the first one. Enough to type in here. Okay. Need any of that. I think I've got all that. Let me check. And I'll have to come back and do this in just a moment. All right, see if it's going to give me any errors. Of course, I can't spell for blazes. We don't have this enter subtotal anymore. Oh, you know what? Oh boy. Well, I'll find out here. Oh, crud. Okay. Okay. Need a break in there. Need a break in there. Need a break in there. No, I don't. Need a break down here. And I don't need these other ones. All right. All right. Again, all I did was I rewrote what was shown in here. All right, so I now I've got these 5 or whatever lines left, but I think I've got most of them in here already. I just have to change this, that out of there. Oh, all this should be at the bottom. Like that. All right, I think I've got this in here twice, this string. Okay, let's see if I've got it now. R. Okay, they got 25% off. That's wrong, and that's wrong, so I have to fix those. But the 25 looks like it's probably correct. How about 200? I know why that broke, so let's see. 10%, so that's working. All I got to do is fix those numbers. The reason that this broke is by putting that dollar sign in there like that. When I go in and change this, and I don't remember to change the dollar sign, it is going to break. All right, so let's fix the discount amount and the total. All right. It's a 0 right here, and that's what's goofing this up. And we don't need a number here anymore, except we can make it 0M. These two lines must be moved down to here. All right, let's see if that fixed it. All right, you got 10%. If you were an R, clear isn't working. We'll have to fix that too. You got 25%. Okay, that's all working, so that's good. So let's see. Case R, case C, the default is 40%. So if I just do that and don't put anything in there and put in 100, then that should be 40%, that should be $40, and that should be 60. And that's working. Good. Let's do the, well, exit doesn't work either. That's lovely. I don't think I put those in. That's the problem. There we go. T. I think that's everything. All right, and then let's do the exit. And as always, I'll steal my code from a previous program in here. Close that. Now I'll be able to close that as well. Paste that in. And let's see if it's working now. Nothing in there. 100. You get 40% off. That's good. Escape, that cleared it. R, 500. I don't remember what you got off, 25. R, 200. let's just say 200. You got 10% off. And the other one was a C. There you got 30% off. And a C. There you got 20% off. It all appears to be working now. All right, you can break the program still, and I should have made a couple more checks, but I just don't want to waste time. You've got now another working version of this one. Okay. And that version now has in it some switch statements and, for lack of better words, switch statements and other stuff, right? Okay. I didn't put a switch expression in there. Like I said, that I don't know if I'm not going to say that's too much for people. I'm not going to say that's not too much for people. All right. Boy, oh boy. So we've got the enhanced one. Again, it's got an if, an else if, and an else, but I've changed those to a switch with case statements, and I still have the if else if here, the if else there. All right. All right. The next thing that's in here is loops. Let's take a few minutes and go over loops. They're not hard once you've looked at them a little bit. We're going to do something real simple. We're going to count to 10. So first we're going to count to 10 using a while loop. When we get done with that, we're going to count to 10 using a do while loop. And finally, when we get done with that, we will count to 10 using a for loop. All right. If you've never worked with loops before, you might say, I have no idea what you're talking about. So let's write the code that we would put in to do this. All right. When you want to control, when you're doing loops, you want to go through the same code more than once. Every time you go through the loop, it's called a loop iteration. In order to be able to go through the loop multiple times, you use what's called a loop control variable. I call my loop control variables usually LCV, LCV for loop control variable. So I'm going to come in here and say int LCV equal 1. And I'm going to have int output, not an int, I'm sorry, this will be a string. Outputs str, I'm going to set that equal to the empty string. So I've got an integer. That's going to be my number. That's going to go from 1 to 10. And I've got my output string, and that's where I'm going to write stuff. So while LCV is less than or equal to 10, output str plus equal LCV plus a blank space. It might choke on this. I don't know if it will or not. All right. All right. So this would be part of a working program. Let's play computer and see if we can figure out what's going on in here. Okay. All right. I'm creating my loop control variable right there. So I'll put a comment here that says initializing. How about this? Declare and initialize loop control variable. Okay. Here I am doing what's called test the loop control variable. And finally here, I am changing the value of the loop control variable. So there's 3 steps in here. I come in here and declare a new variable and initialize it to 1. All right. This output string, this will be a string that looks like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, with a blank space in between. All right. So I'm saying, okay, the loop control variable is 1. While that value is less than 10 and 1 is less than 10, so take output string, which was empty, and add to it. All right. And add to it the current loop control variable plus a blank space. So after the first time through, output string will look like that, a 1 with a space. Then add 1 to the loop control variable. Come back up to the top, it's now 2. 2 is less than or equal to 10. So my output string will now be 1 space, 2 space. And it'll go through that and it'll be 1 space, 2 space, 3 space, then 4 space, then 5 space, then 6 space, then 7 space, then 8 space, then 9 space, then 10 space. After that, it'll add 1 to it, which will make it 11. 11 is not less than or equal to 10. So it'll come out here and it will print this. All right. So there's 3 parts to a while loop. Actually, there's 3 parts to all 3 of these loops. This is called a pretest loop. If I were to do this, if I made that 11, 11 is not less than or equal to 10. It would totally skip what's in here and it would print out the numbers from 1 to 10 and it would just print 11 because that's what LCV. Oh, it would print nothing because that's what output string is equal to. So in order for you to be able to go into the body of the loop, when you test the loop here, and that's a Boolean expression, the Boolean expression must be true. If the Boolean expression is false, you skip the body of the loop and you continue on. So again, if this was 11, this would say the numbers from 1 to 10, and it would add to that nothing. And if that confuses you at all, key it in yourselves and look at it. The other thing, you need this. If I left that line out, I would never be changing the value. It would be 1. So it would print out the string 1 space, 1 space, 1 space, 1 space, 1 space forever. I would be put into what's called an infinite loop. If that happens, you hold down on your control key that's in the bottom left-hand corner of your keyboard, and you tap the delete key that's up near the upper right-hand corner of the keyboard. So that is a while loop. And again, a while loop is also known as a pretest loop. All right. Next, we're going to look at doing the same thing, but doing it with a do while loop. So let me copy all this because it's not going to change much, yet it's changing a lot. All right. When you work with this one, you make the check at the bottom of the loop. You put the word do here, and then at the bottom of the loop, you put this in with a semicolon on the end. That's the only time you ever put a semicolon on the end of any loop or if or whatever. This will work the same way as the other one did. So you might say, fine, then why do you have two of them if it's doing the same thing? All right. It's still doing the declare. Down here is where it's doing the test. All right. And that's a really key point because this is what's known as a post-test loop. You don't test it till the bottom. You always, always, always go through a do while loop at least once. So if I make that 11, this is now going to say the numbers from 1 to 10, and it'll have the number 11. Since I don't test it till down here. So I print that out. It adds 1 to it, making it 12. It checks, and 12 is not less than or equal to 10. Boom. It jumps out of the loop, and it goes to right there. That should be a semicolon there and there. In some ways, with some of the stuff we've done so far, it's easier to write loops like this in a console program as opposed to writing it in a GUI program. And if you don't understand that or don't get that, we'll be looking at that tomorrow. All right. Finally, the last one is called a for loop. Okay. So I'm going to copy the original one here and again make some changes to it. Now, like what we saw before, the for loop is a pretest loop. And I'm going to set that back to 1. In fact, I'm going to change this a lot here. I'm going to type in here for int, not lint, int LCV equal 1, LCV less than or equal to 10, plus plus LCV. So I no longer need to declare this. I no longer need to add this. I no longer need this. So you can see that the for loop is much more compact. Okay. You do the initialization, the test, and the increment or decrement on the same line. It goes through and it does this. And it says, okay, I'm 1. Is 1 less than or equal to 10? It is. So I do this. And after it does this, then it jumps up and it adds 1 to it. So it's now 2. Then it comes back to here and it says, is 2 less than or equal to 10? Yes. So it jumps back down here and does this. It's a pretest loop because if I made that 11 like I did before, you'd get no output for output string. It would just be empty. Now, I went through that probably quicker than I ever have. So if that confused you, we are going to go through examples of this. All right, but I wanted to write that down or do that for you so you could at least see how each one of these works. All right, in your book, and you should be reading your book, they show you there's a while loop, there's a do while loop, and there's a for loop. It's all in here. So they do mention here, me back up. When you use a while loop, the condition is tested before the loop is executed, what I call a pretest. When you use a do while, the condition is tested after the do while, what I call a post test. A while or do while executes the block of the statements within the braces as long as the Boolean expression is true. If the loop requires more than one statement, again, I always put all these in curly braces. And I already mentioned to you, if the conditional expression never becomes false, you have what's called an infinite loop. There are times with certain programming applications, you do want an infinite loop. You want something to literally run and run and run and run and run. All right. And then with the for loop, the for statement, the for loop is also known as a counting loop. You need to always know exactly how many times to go through it. Now, I've shown it with incrementing the counter every time. If you wanted to go backwards, let's say you were writing, I saw a thing on the news today about some rocket that they're going to try to go to Mars by 2030, I think it is, or 2040, I don't know. But you could decrement a counter. So if I wanted to go down from 10 to 0 and then say blast off, I could do that. Now, break and continue. I'm going to show you examples of both of those, not the ones that are in the book. I'm going to give you mine. All right. So I'm just going to write a simple for loop right underneath the ones I just did. All right. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to write down if else equal 7, I'm going to say here break and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And it's going to stop right there. All right. So this is a break example. And I'm going to copy it again. And now we're going to do it with a continue. If it equals 7, continue. Break gets you out of the loop. All right. Continue. Let me take this and I'm going to move this down. Because otherwise the continue won't make any sense. This one, if it's equal to 7, oh, I don't want that there. If it's equal to 7, skip the rest of this and go right back up to the top. So continue, we'll write 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It'll skip 7 and do 8, 9, 10. Nice. Don't know what the problem is, but it will not allow one of the students who wants to come in. There we go. All right, sorry about that. Okay, so we're just about done with chapter 5. Let's take a look at what else is in here. Debugging techniques for loops. All right. We're going to have a whole chapter later where we're going to talk about breakpoints and break mode. All right. But what is happening is when you've got a program, if you want the program to stop someplace. So let's say right here, I wanted the program to stop so I could look at this amount for whatever reason. I can go into this gray area that's called the gutter area and click, and I get a circle and this thing lights up. Now watch what happens when I run the program. Okay, so I'll just put in something here and I'll click calculate. And now it's stopped. I put in what's called a breakpoint and I can stop and see what values the program has right now. Notice it has 100 in it. I can look at the number of gross pays. It's 1. I can look at the gross pay, etc. I can't do this stuff yet. This code hasn't run, but I can tell the system right now to stop right there. And that's what I told it to do. Then to continue, I just click up there and boom, it continues. To turn this off, I just click on it again. All right, so you can use breakpoints to check is what they're talking about in here. All right, the last thing that's discussed in the chapter. So the last thing that I'm going to go over in here is this future value app. Now, this is what it's going to look like right here. I'm going to make this literally in a matter of seconds, or minutes. But this says that if you invest $100 a month for 10 years, so that's 120, all right? So that'd be, I guess, 1,200 bucks. If you had a yearly interest rate of 7.5%, after that 10 years, the value of your money would be $17,904. All right. But again, that's saying 120 times 100. I think that's 12,000. So you'd make $5,000 in interest. All right. Now, I've had people in the past, I always love that when people come in before the semester starts and say, I'm thinking of signing up for your program, but I don't do math. Well, I don't know what to tell you then. You just have to set up the math. The computer's actually doing the math. All right. But let's go back. This will be the last thing that I'm going to do for class today. And let's make this form and put the code in. So again, I'm going to grab it like I did before. And I'm going to grab this part of it. All right, so that's what we want to create. So I'm going to take a minute and create that. And what I'll do is I'll put it right out in the same folder where I've got the invoice total stuff. All right, hopefully that won't confuse people. And also, again, everything I've done today, I will update the GitHub repos and they'll be out there by the end of class. All right, so let me get rid of this and get rid of this. Close all this stuff. And we'll come back up to our solution. Close that. Solution, new project. Add new project. Oh, and maybe this is just me, but for some reason when I did this, instead of saying a 0 there, I used an O. So let me change the name of that. So it is now O3. Good, that's much better. All right, so let me go in and add a new project. It will again be a Windows Forms project. Or .NET Framework C#. And I'm going to call this one Future Value GUI 01. So in case there's more future values later, we can add those. All right, make this smaller, grab this. So we have what? We have 1, 2, 3, 4 labels, 4 text boxes, and I'll add a clear button in here. Okay. Let's change the name of our form right away. We will call this, got the wrong one open. There it is. So we will rename this FRM Future Value 01. Yes, I want to change everything. All right. As always, let's make our changes that we always make. So center screen, let's make the text Future Value 01. We've already changed the name of the form, so that's good. I will change the back color to a purple, or whatever that is. I'm going to add I'm going to add 3 buttons. I'm going to add 4 text boxes. And 4 labels. I'm going to change the size of all my components here, the font size, and make them 24, bold and Arial. Okay, make these a little bit wider. All right, this will be my calculate button. So I need to make these buttons a little bigger. There we go. This will be my clear button. And this will be my exit button. I believe that it's looking okay, so I'm going to lock the form into place. All right. And my fields are monthly investment, I may have to widen my fields out a little bit. I don't know. Yes, I will. Oh, All right, the second field is called yearly interest rate. Move that up. All right, the next one, oh, that'll have to be TXT, yearly interest rate. This is number of years. Pull it at the end there. And finally, this one is future value, I believe. Let's double check and make sure I didn't forget to name anything. Looks like they're all done. I will set my accept button to BTN calculate, my cancel button to BTN clear, my Windows start position to center screen. I guess I already did that. And let's do the tab order. View tab order. And that will be 0, 1, 2. That's going to be read only in a minute. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Another view tab order. Let's make this read only. There's our calculate button. There is our clear button, which should clear, 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 set focus. There's that one. And for our exit, as always, I'm just going to steal it from another program. Let's close that. Let's close that. Paste that in. Oops. You have to set my start. So go to my future value, set a start project. There we go. And we'll just throw some junk into here. Clear works. Exit works. Good deal. Let's take all these and let's set the text align to center, because I like the way that looks. All right, so that's everything as far as all the setup, as far as I know. Just about everything is done. Again, because I'm a little squirrely about things. There we go. All right. Now let's see what they have us do in the book here. Now my names might be a little bit different than their names, but basically everything is set up the same. I added a clear button. Okay. Now the code for the form, let's take a look at it before I add it. Okay. Don't worry about the exit. Don't worry about, we got to clear. It's this code here. All right. And I want to make it better. What do I mean? Again, they're using a convert to decimal. They're just assuming that your input was correct. It may be and it may not be. All right, so I'm not going to use that. I'm going to use the try parse for this one and for this one. All right, and for this one, for the years as well. All right, and we'll even set a couple constants. All right, but just to try to, again, keep working on the stuff we're working on. All right, so let me grab this code that's in here. And let's see. I'm just going to set that equal to 0M. And I'm going to set that equal to 0M. And I'm going to set that equal to 0M. All right. Because the key stuff is in here. This is where it's figuring it out, is inside of this loop. Again, when I finish this, we'll be done with the chapter. And tomorrow I will go and update tomorrow I will go in and update the payroll program. All right, so this will be it for the day. So even if I have to go till 1:30, then I'm going to do that. Okay, 2 more lines, then we're finished. All right, so that'll go in the calculate button here. And let me just paste that in. It might give me an error or two, I don't know. In years, that should just be 0 and 0M. That wasn't too bad. All right, now this thing in here with the monthly investment, all this stuff, okay? I'm going to come in here like we talked about before. I'm going to make a Boolean variable and I'm going to call it result. I'm going to use that to test my monthly investment, and I'm going to use it to check my yearly interest rate, and I'm going to use it to check my years on all of them. Move this over so you can see what's going on here. There. Okay. We will want to return, but first we'll want to clear out what's in there. And no return. All right, so that fixed that one. Now we want to do the same thing, but with the yearly interest rate. And then let's do it one last time. And that will be for a number of years. That will not be a decimal dot triparse. That will be an int 32 dot triparse. And this will be number of years. So will this. What do I call it? Just years. Right, that should be just about everything. So let's try it. Don't need any of that. Error. Okay, try it again. All right, what do they show in the book for their tests? 100, 7.5, and 10. 100, 7.5, and 10. Well, that sure isn't right, so there's something wrong in here. But we'll fix it. I'm not worried about it. All right. Months equal years times 12. That would be correct. The monthly interest rate would be the yearly divided, but that's correct. Decimal future value is 0. LCV 0, LCV less than months. Future value, future value. Well, it's got to be in here that there's got to be a mistake in here because that's where it's figuring out the future value. So let's see. Let's take a look at the code as opposed to my code. Not like that. All right. That's monthly interest rate. TXT monthly interest rate, monthly interest rate, monthly investment, monthly investment, yearly interest rate, yearly interest rate, yearly interest rate, yearly interest rate. Number of years, 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 years. Should be correct. Monthly investment. 1 plus the monthly interest rate. Future value. Future value to string C. Investment, monthly investment. All right. Well, pretty obvious there's an error in here. First of all, before I even do that, let's see if all the stuff I put in for checks worked. All right, so there's nothing in here. Invalid input, invalid monthly investment. That's good. And if I put in this, it should do the same thing. And that works. So 100. All right. Invalid yearly interest rate. That's correct. And there it is. Invalid yearly interest rate. And that's correct. So 7.5. All right. Invalid number of years. And that's correct. This is, like I said, that's a squirrely value. Clear works. And the exit works. So let's set a breakpoint in here. Now this, I wouldn't normally put one in here because why? This is going to run. If I put 10 years, this one is going to get hit 120 times. All right, but I do want to take a look at once we get in here. So I'm going to run this, and I'm only going to do it for a year. So $100, yearly interest rate will be 7.5, number of years will be 1. All right, and there's the future value. So let's look in here. So LCV is 0. That's 12. That's 0. That worked. All right, these have not been set yet. Monthly investments. 100 times 1 times, right. Trying to figure out why this is failing. Try it again. Oops, I'll run it. Oh, well, it wasn't that. I thought it was because I put instead of 7.5. All right. So my calculation is off. Let's check. That all looks correct. That's okay. That's okay. Return, yep. In 32 try first number of years on years. Oh, no, years. That all looks correct. Months equal years times 12. That would be correct. Monthly interest rate. So if I put in 7.5, we divide that by 12 and then divide that by 100. That would be correct. So let's add one to it. Oh, looks correct. Again, it's obvious I've got a problem in here with my calculation. Times 1. That's a plus sign. There you go. All right. 100, 7.5, 10 years. That looks a little better. Clear works and exit works. All right, so let's take a couple minutes and go over this and we'll be done by 1:30. We're not, well, we are. Okay. So this is the amount that you're going to invest every month. We put in $100. So $100 per month would be $1,200 per year, times 10 years would be $12,000. Our interest rate was 7.5, but that's a yearly or an annual interest rate. All right, the number of years was 0. Again, we made tests in here where they didn't in the book. We made sure that everything was valid. We could even come in here. I'd like to do this. Let's add a couple constants. So declare and initialize constants. And we will have, let's see, const decimal. We'll call it min investment. We'll say that the minimum you can invest is $10 and the max will set equal to $100. Should have an M there. And so should that. All right. And we'll have a minimum and a maximum interest rate. So the min INT rate, we'll set the minimum rate equal to 0. Let's just say 0.02%. I'm just making that up with an M. And the max interest rate, we'll set that equal to 0.1, 10%. All right, and then finally we'll do a thing for years. So const int min years equal 1 and const int max years equal, we'll set that to 25. Again, these are all arbitrary. I'm just making those numbers up. There's no special significance at all in any of those. So there we go. All right, good enough. So we checked in here And if it was bad, we did this and we returned. Okay. Else if this is the monthly investment, if it's less than the min investment, investment, or it's greater than the max investment. So if that's the case, we're going to say must be between $10 and $100. Invalid monthly investment amount. All right. And again, we'll want to take all that, grab that, steal that, and bring that in here. So this is yearly interest rate. And that was between 2% and 10%. And then finally, this one. Oops. And all right. Somewhere I forgot to return. In all these, I forgot to return. Okay. That should have worked. Yeah, it doesn't like my yearly interest rate. Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm doing it with percentages. So we'll make that 2 and make that 10. That should fix that, hopefully. Yep. And it's working. All right. So what we did in here, and I'll be, like I said, give me 3 minutes and we'll be finished. First, I came in and I set some arbitrary constants. So the most you could, the least you could invest per month is $10. The most you could invest per month is $100. The minimum yearly interest rate is 2%. The maximum yearly interest rate is 10%. The minimum number of years you could invest was 1. The maximum was 25. Then I came in and made sure, let me put this on multiple lines so you're sure you can see it. All right. So we came in and we grabbed the first number in the first text box. And if it was non-numeric, we covered it here. If it was out of range, we covered it here. Then we did the same thing for the yearly interest rate. If it was less than 2 or greater than 10. So if it was non-numeric, we covered it here. If it was less than 2 or greater than 10, we covered it here. Finally, we did the same thing for the number of years. If it was non-numeric or blank, we covered it here. If it was less than 1 or greater than 25, we covered it here. All right, if we get down to here, all input fields were valid. So we go in and we figure out the months, and then we need the monthly interest rate, which is the yearly divided by 12 divided by 100. And then we set our future value that we set in here. Then we put the future value into the last text box, set the monthly investment back, the focus back to our first field, and that's it. So I believe we have finished the chapter after that. Let's double check. All right. So tomorrow, the first thing that I'm going to do tomorrow is I'm going to add overtime to the payroll program. All right. And then after we do that, that should take 15 minutes to half an hour. I don't know. We're going to go over chapter 6, not a particularly long chapter, but we're going to take all the code we've been writing and put each thing in its own method. And if you don't know what that means, you will by tomorrow. I'm even going to show you something that's not shown in the book that would pretty up our program or make it even more easy to use than it would be otherwise. Anybody who came in, thanks a lot for sticking around with me. That's all I have for today. I think 5.5 hours on any day, even with 3 breaks, is plenty. So I will see you tomorrow. Have a good rest of the day.